Ernst is a documentary filmmaker, and he joins us live. Good morning. I appreciate you coming on to a conservative network and willing to voice your opinions.
Hey, Carl. Good morning, and thanks again for actually inviting me on. When you asked me to come on Twitter, I said yes. Maybe you were surprised that I said yes.
I was actually shocked.
I was a little bit surprised, but I'm glad to be here. To be honest, I just finished my overpriced latte, my avocado toast, got off the phone with George Soros, so I'm ready to go.
All right, great. I had a steak and cleaned my guns and drove my diesel pickup truck into the city. All right, you and I got into this fight on social media. It was a fight. We were disagreeing. We ended up joking at the end of it that Twitter wasn't actually real, but that I hate cancel culture, and I think there's a double standard of how conservatives face the wrath, especially on social media. But liberals generally get away with significantly more. But what do you think about it?
Well, I think you really have to be specific about the instance of what you're talking about in terms of cancel culture.
They kicked the president off Twitter.
So the president on Twitter, for example, I would say that if you talk specifically about cancel culture in this instance, and you focus only on cancel culture, you sort of miss the point and change the subject of the whole context surrounding the former president being booted off of Twitter. And that was because he was, I think would say it's hard to argue, he was trying to get his followers to stop the steal. And so I think you do have to look at that. Now, whether or not he should have been canceled, that really is, I do tend to agree that can become a slippery slope. Like, right. You know, if you do, but the problem is it is Twitter, it is Facebook. These are private companies, and
but the private company argument, Aaron, only goes so far. And look, I'm going to say the president did say, peacefully and patriotically, they can make it to be whatever they want, and some idiots storm the Capitol. We can both agree that that was dumb. So, but you say the private company thing, and then I go to a restaurant in California that hasn't been able to open up in 9 months. They're a private company. Why can't they do what they want too?
Well, no, I think it really depends on, we're talking specifically about cancel culture here, so yeah. I like to keep it on the freedom of speech. And I think you could look at the flip side of it and say, should Facebook be forced to have someone on their platform whose views that they do not want on their platform? But I think I do think you have to think about that. Should you force Twitter to, if they have their own rules, is the government going to come in and force Twitter to have these people on Twitter just because the government says so? I don't think you want to go down that slope either.
The answer to that is sure. Yes. Because they have 230 protections, which makes them a platform, which means they can't be sued, and they have the protections of being able to say, well, you know, there's that latte. So they can't be sued, and they have the protections of not being able to have the same liabilities as a publication. So that was Trump's big thing was, hey, they should lose 230 protection. So when they say yes, should they be able to kick people off this platform? If they want that 230 protections, you're darn right they should.
Okay, so I mean, we can go back and forth on this. I'd like to actually step back a bit and talk about Twitter and Facebook generally, and just kind of get back to the reason why you actually had me on the show, which was I think that if Twitter and Facebook went away tomorrow, the world would be better. So honestly, honestly, like I feel that it's a company, both Twitter and Facebook. They really survive on getting people riled up. And not really I think it's hard to say that you and I on Twitter are really having like a healthy, maybe it was a healthy debate, but basically it starts off as we're, yelling at each other and calling each other names.
I think I said your opinion was dumb or something. But, so like, okay, so let's circle back, Jesus. So going to the cancel culture and the fact checking like we were just talking about and having people on their platform and publisher versus platform, conservatives get fact-checked all the time. I've been fact-checked all the time. I posted something the other day about COVID, and the fact-checker said missing context. But then when I clicked on the link to find out more, they said, this doesn't tell the whole story. But there was no link to telling the whole story. President Trump was censored, his campaign account, not him personally, was censored by people that were writing these things, many of which were run through PR experts and lawyers and things like that. like 600 times Joe Biden was 0. And I have article after article. There's 30 pages of articles where it shows the difference. This one's the 11 worst fact checks by Facebook. You have Eric Swalwell out there now who will openly say Trump is a Russian agent. There's never a fact check on that, and there's no evidence to produce that. So why is it fact checked almost exclusively on the right?
I mean, again, I think you really have to look exactly at the context of this. And the context of Trump getting kicked off of Twitter was the fact that he spoke at an event that was called Stop the Steal. And so I do feel like, you have to look at, and if you talk about cancel culture, you do ignore the fact that, and a lot of people outside of the bubble of Newsmax do believe that Trump incited a riot and his followers were just following him. So, I think we can debate that. But in general, I really do think we should just everyone get off of Twitter, get off of Facebook, shut down your computer, go outside, talk to your neighbor in real life. And I think the world would be much better.
Yeah, well, I'll agree. I think, look, Stop the Steal rally or whatever he called it. I believe he was protected under the First Amendment. You don't. We debated it in person. I appreciate you coming on. It shows a backbone. So enjoy the latte and your hybrid car, whatever other things you do. I appreciate you coming on, Aaron.
Enjoy your guns and your pickup trucks, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Certainly will.